Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of SUGtalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted today to be joined by Ed East, Presales Solution Advisor for the SAP Business Technology Platform at SAP in the UK and Ireland. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at SAP's Business Technology Platform and how organisations can get the most out of it. Now, I think most of us are planning holidays this year, as hopefully COVID's impact in our lives continues to lessen piece by piece. So for our icebreaker, I thought I'd ask where you'd most like to go on holiday, Ed, and why. And from my perspective, I've actually just come back. I've just had a week's break in St. Lucia, which was absolutely amazing, despite all of the hurdles I had to jump through with forms and tests and things. It was certainly worth it to get a week in the sun by the pool. And so, are you looking at any holidays, Ed?
Well, I think the season's probably slightly going past it now, but I think if I had to choose anywhere right this second, it would be some type of skiing trip. I've not been for a number of years, but my partner and I were quite keen skiers. But with lockdown and other general family events and stuff like that, it's proven difficult to get one booked into the calendar. So yeah, I think if I was to choose one right this second with all the freedom, I think it would be some type of skiing holiday, ideally in the Alps or somewhere in Europe, if I had to choose.
Oh, very nice. So, kind of the complete opposite of what I was looking at, lazing in the sun, active in the snow. But then again, I can really align with that. I'd love to go skiing myself. Not been actually. It is one of the
Oh,
things I want to do.
very nice.
Okay, anyway, moving on now to our main subject. And to get us started, Ed, it would be great if you could give us a bit of background on your role at SAP and perhaps a quick overview of the SAP Business Technology Platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you put it quite eloquently yourself. So, as a pre-sales solution advisor, so my official title, what I do is I support essentially our sales colleagues when it comes to doing a sales cycle. So obviously we identify a specific customer issue that they might be having or a use case that they want to explore. And what my role is when I work alongside my sales colleagues is to provide that technical support that the customers might need. So when it comes to wanting to identify and understand the specific solution in more technical detail, that's where as pre-sales we really try to come in. But then we try to take it a step beyond that, in that we try to be quite creative in the way in which we deliver, the value that we can bring to the customer. So whether that's, in the form of the style of presentations that we do, maybe it's through, mixed media, so film, audio, you name it. But then we also make sure that we're trying to do a lot of demand generation and general support for our customers as well. So introducing them, bringing them up to speed with the latest and greatest of what's coming out in specific solution areas. Because the BTP or Business Technology Platform is quite a broad service in itself, there's always something to be talking about, and there's always something that's being developed and coming out. So it's always exciting in that regard to not
Mhm.
only be working in pre-sales, but to also be, informing our customers about what is coming. Um, so it's quite broad in that sense. Now, in regards to the business technology platform itself, so it is SAP's platform as a service. And the portfolio itself has, I think, just under 100 different microservices at this point in time. And these are really about trying to deliver business value across completely different use cases. Now, we're quite agnostic in the sense that it's not specific to a certain line of business or a specific industry. We're very much trying to deliver solutions that can help all varieties in that sense. So it's very exciting for me because I get to interact and explore and see all of these different industries. I get to see how they work, how they operate, what's important to them. But I also get to see what they are exploring going into the future. So, what they're interested in, what they feel needs to be changed to make them successful into the future. So it's very exciting in that sense. And the BTP itself, it's built with a open architecture in mind, so it's interoperable with different solutions. So from a integration perspective, as an example, many customers, they're never really going to be SAP from one wall to the other. Chances are they're going to have a mixed variety of different solutions that have built up their successful business over time. And so the BTP, we need to make sure that we're working with all of those different solutions. We need to make sure that we can operate alongside them to obviously make our customers as successful as they can be. So in that sense, we're really trying to make sure that we're putting the customer first when it comes to building out these solutions, building out these microservices, and getting it to them and their end users effectively. So yeah, very exciting in that regard.
Thanks. And a couple of things that you mentioned there, just I suppose for the non-technical listeners we might have, what's platform as a service?
So platform as a service. So for the non-techies maybe out there, so we have a mixed variety. So there's actually software as a service, there's platform as a service, and there's infrastructure as a service. Now, with software as a service, effectively what you do is much like when we go on to Netflix, we are subscribing to a service, right? And once we subscribe to it, we can go and consume that service. So in that regard, we're watching all types of TV shows and movies. Now, the next shift is platform as a service, where we subscribe naturally to those individual services, but then we can start toying and interacting and playing with how the different services are interacting with each other. Now, then you take that a step further and you look at infrastructure. So, infrastructure is where actually our hyperscalers come in. So, things like Amazon, places like Microsoft Azure, these are where you then have the data hosted and then you consume those services within that hyperscaler environment. So there's really sort of three main elements to it, and obviously as you go further down into them, so software at the top level, platform at the medium level, and infrastructure at the bottom level, you're almost taking away the responsibility from the end user in a certain sense and making it easier for them to obviously get started and kick started with creating those applications, building out those use cases, and actually doing it in a much more cost-effective manner. It's really where the cloud mindset has come about in the modern day, where in the past customers would have a very on-premise environment. So we would build out this solution that is run and managed by them. Now, when a solution is managed by a customer in that sense, it becomes very costly for them. Chances are they have to get people like SAP to come in and help manage and maintain that system, especially when there's upgrades as well. It's always time intensive and cost intensive. And so what cloud as a result has allowed us to do is run that all online. So rather than them having to host and manage that, we do that effectively for them. And then things like upgrades are much easier for us to push out and manage without having to have any bottlenecks or bringing the systems down for multiple weeks once we install and upgrade and update. One major advantage of cloud and why we're pushing for it as our sort of cloud first strategy. as we're kind of going into the modern era or the modern world of cloud as it is today.
Thank you. And just on the back of that as well, something you mentioned earlier is that obviously the business technology platform is made up of over 100 microservices. And
Hmm.
what do you mean by a microservice?
Yeah, so let's give you an example. So one that we recently delivered is something called SAP Process Automation. Now, when we talk about microservice, we effectively are talking about the idea of delivering a service for specific use cases. Now, process automation in that sense is taking the concept of building out a specific workflow, but also trying to build automation into that workflow. So a workflow is a almost a step-by-step process that typically will involve some form of approval from a user, maybe like myself. So let's say a customer wants to buy a specific item. Now, if that item is very cheap, then super easy. Yep, no problem. Happy for you to purchase it. Don't need to review or understand what it is that's trying to be purchased. But if we look at the example of, well, what if something was extremely expensive? Maybe a employee was trying to buy something that was extremely expensive. Chances are, the manager in some way, shape, or form probably needs to check, what are you trying to buy here? And so then that needs to go to the manager for an approval. Chances are it might need to go into a inbox of some sort. Maybe it's their email. Maybe they have some type of task center that when they go into it, they can see, approvals that they need to look into. These are steps in a workflow. So then the manager approves it. And then what happens is that item that the employee wants to order then automatically goes and gets purchased and gets delivered naturally to the employee. This is a process, and this can be automated through the use of workflows and through the use of something called robotic process automation. And that's where our new tool, SAP Process Automation, brings those two elements together to actually build out into one single solution. Now, that example of a employee wanting to purchase a specific item is just one of many different examples that our solution can ultimately provide and help support, which is why it's exciting. Right? I talked about earlier around this. It's like the solution itself is agnostic to industry, line of business. So you really start seeing how across an entire business, how a single microservice like process automation can actually start delivering value in all different areas of a business. And the one of it that I always like is when we start talking to customers about these solutions, I always enjoy seeing the end of a presentation that's gone well, where they start thinking, well, actually, now I've thought about this in that team, maybe we can use that or speak to this colleague and they might be able to use it as well. And that's always exciting for us. And that's, especially in pre-sales, that's always the aim for us, is to get them excited and give them the ability to almost expand their mindset in a way of looking at where can we deploy this across our business.
So
So
like
that's
those
as an
extra,
example.
yeah, like those extra light bulb moments
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and kind of that's interesting. And obviously, I assume one of the interesting parts of your role, what you've mentioned there, is working with individual customers on their unique challenges and perhaps how you know I won't I kind of hesitate to use the word bespoke, but kind of, utilizing the relevant microservices on the
Mm,
platform to deliver and solve and deliver business value to that customer.
yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, so you go ahead.
oh, please.
I was going to say it's definitely always been a topic around the customers always in some way, shape, or form have wanted to explore, being able to have that, personalization, customization that they want. And what we over time have discovered is that by working with, multiple customers and exploring their use cases, there's almost like if you try to imagine a Venn diagram, you can have on one side, you've got the set of services that we've uncovered as being very common, and lots of customers go through the same patterns. And so what we've tried to do is we've actually tried to build out pre-packaged content and pre-built content that they can effectively, pick up, drop into their organization, connect it to, their endpoints, and get going. There's no point trying to build, as an example, there's no point trying to build an entire integration scenario all the way from scratch if we've seen that many of our customers in the past have done the exact same thing. So that's almost one side of the Venn diagram. But you then have another side of the Venn diagram, which is exploring how a customer can be unique when they compare themselves to their competitors. But we at SAP, we also need to make sure that we're providing a solution that still allows them to do that in some way, shape, or form, which is why within the Business Technology Platform, so there's really four major pillars to it. So we have database and data management, we've got analytics, and then we've got intelligent technology. So that's things like your machine learning, artificial intelligence. Then the final piece, and the bit I want to get onto, is application development and integration. And this is really where we can allow our customers to extend how they are doing certain operations and certain tasks. And so when it comes to that idea of, how do we make ourselves unique? Is it trying to deliver a fantastic digital experience? So when a user or when a customer logs onto their website, is it this fantastic, customized, personalized experience that the user loves? Or is it maybe I have a issue and I want to speak to a maybe like a chatbot online to get that issue resolved. When I type through and go through my issue, is that issue resolved very fast, very quickly, and very efficiently? And so we need to make sure that we're delivering solutions in that sense to make sure that we can accommodate to what our customers want to be extremely unique and powerful in that regard. And that's where that application development and integration piece really comes into effect. And naturally, I am a bit biased just because that is the area that I specialize in most. But I also think it's the area that I find personally the most exciting, because I really get to explore that. How can I make my organization unique in that regard, in the context of a customer, obviously? So it's very exciting in that regard. Now, obviously, that you then have that Venn diagram. You have the piece that we deliver, the pre-built content, which in itself is a major advantage to the customer. But then we also give them the ability and the solutions to explore the idea of extending their organization to become unique in certain areas, and then naturally deliver that business value to their end users. So very exciting in that regard.
It's quite interesting. Thank you for that. And the broad aspect of the business technology platform. And one of the reasons I wanted to kind of record this podcast was comments we've seen from our members, and who a number of them have utilised the platform and have mentioned that it's another one of SAP's best kept secrets. And do you think that some organisations, or there are a few organisations out there that are probably unaware of the capabilities of the platform?
I think one challenge we particularly have is, like with any organisation, right? The strategy always changes. It's always evolving. It's always adapting. The business technology platform itself has gone through complete rebranding and renaming over the years. And so as a result,
SCP,
yeah,
BTP.
exactly. I mean, even HANA Cloud Platform before then as well.
Yeah,
So naturally, if you're not constantly involved in the SAP world, it can be very easy to see from the outside, well, what is this BTP service? Is that different to SCP? And I completely understand when customers do get confused in that regard. But again, it's what keeps my role fresh. It keeps my role exciting. Um, and yes, I do. I would agree that there are definitely areas that are almost secret in a certain sense that we need to uncover and showcase to our customers. Um, so absolutely, in a certain sense, yes, I do agree that yeah, there are areas where we could probably do more to make sure that our customers and partners as well, right, are fully up to date and fully embraced and emerged into what we're doing to evolve our systems going into the future.
yeah. Thank you. And I'll come back to that a little later. I'd like to
Mm,
maybe just jump back a little to what you were saying earlier around you mentioned personalization and customization from a
mm,
customer perspective. And on kind of a recent member survey we did, 92% of organizations felt that existing customizations presented them a challenge when moving to SAP S4 HANA, which obviously we know the majority of customers will certainly be looking at now, and if not now, very, very soon in the future. And in the same study, it highlighted that just under 60% of organizations were planning to rebuild their required extensions or customizations on the business technology platform. And
mm.
what's your take on these figures?
Yeah, so in my view, and I mean it's probably a relatively biased view because of what I've seen as I've come into the industry, but we're in a big transformational phase for every organization, not just our customers, not just SAP. Everyone is going through this transformation, right? As we shift and go towards this cloud first mentality. And SAP's strategy at the moment is cloud first. So when we are talking to our customers and when we're pushing solutions, cloud is the utmost importance in that regard. And naturally with that, I mean it touches base again on what I was talking about with that Venn diagram, in that we obviously want to build extensions and customizations around the core business, we call it. So those standard processes, those standard tasks that get completed across any organization, because it's ultimately what we know and what we need to do to be at the very least an operating business. Um, but customers obviously want a function or a task to operate in a specific way. And so over time they've built those customizations, those modifications that at the beginning it was more a case of, yeah, this is going to be working for X many years, let's say 10 years at this point in time. We don't need to worry about the potential. And I actually say it's almost in a way that the law of unintended consequences. We don't need to worry about it for the time being. But now we actually are getting to a paradigm shift in a certain sense of our technologies and what is available on the market. And it's now making a lot of organizations realize that, well, actually, I'm losing quite a lot of money, and it's actually no longer the most effective way for me to run my business with these customizations, right? Um, and so when it comes to wanting to build out those extensions specifically, that's exactly where that application and integration piece really comes into effect. So there's actually two main components to how we do extensions, and that is having your in application extensibility. So this is, for example, let's say there's specific task or function within a application. And you actually want to change how a specific form looks. You want to change how emails might be interacted with, maybe even some of the master data involved as well. Tweaking stuff like that is how we coin our in-app extensibility. But what we've tried to do is shift the mindset to a side-by-side extensibility. Now, what that means is you take your core business, your core operations. Imagine it as a little squares. For those that aren't watching on video, I'm making a square diagram with my hands. But around that, you then have those extensions. Now, what they do is they don't affect or modify that inner organization. So then when we start thinking about the idea of wanting to do maintenance, so much like with SAP, if we then go in to upgrade, maintain the system, that core business is still operating no issues. What we're doing is we're just adding those modifications, those extra features to those extensions that are working around your core organization. And that was the point I was alluding to earlier around this idea of, when you've got an on-premise system, we've got to go in, we've got to effectively pull the system apart. We've got to upgrade it, maintain it, make sure that all the integrations and setups that have been built out over time are still working. Whereas when you build extensions around your core, the core still stays the same. You're then just adding those additional features and patches and updates to those extensions around the sides. And one of the main differentiators when it comes to the BTP, because you talked about the idea of planning to rebuild extensions and customizations on the BTP. I talked about it a little bit earlier around, we're building pre-built content. It's actually funny because the longer we interact with our customers and the more we get involved in different customers, we get to actually explore those patterns more and more. So for example, if there's a specific integration for how, let's say how a purchase order might get approved or the steps it needs to go through, we can actually identify that and then build out that pre-built content. So we've got something called our API Business Hub. So when it comes to doing integration scenarios, this API Hub, it's a public website. By all means, you can feel free to go and check it out as well. But this has over 2,000 different integration packs and content. We've got, I think, around 170 pre-built API configurations to third-party solutions. So not SAP specific solutions, to third parties. So much like Google, Microsoft, Salesforce, ServiceNow, a mixed variety of pre-built content and specifications that our customers, when they are doing integration scenarios, they can actually go and leverage this pre-built content. Now we've done it for them. There's no point building it from scratch. Go and get that quicker time to value by accessing this content. But that's just from a integration perspective. When I was talking a little bit earlier about one of our solutions called Process Automation, we actually have a bot store that you can go and access if you're using the solution. And it's got a mixed variety of automation bots that you can, again, copy, paste, and get set up into your organization. Furthermore, if I can go on, obviously, but with wanting to build Fiori applications, so for customers that are on S4 or on an S4 journey, we have an entire Fiori apps library of pre-built applications that, if they want to, they can go and start consuming for their organization. So our focus in this regard is trying to deliver and push as much pre-built content that we can across these industries, across these lines of business. So then they can really start taking that Venn diagram again, take that pre-built content, get the business set up and running, and focus then that time on the other side of the Venn diagram and exploring how do we become a unique business and how do we deliver unique experiences and value for our customers. So yeah, a lot of pre-built content in that regard.
And from that, then obviously SAP talks a lot about the intelligent enterprise, and is this BTP in way of supporting that journey to an intelligent enterprise?
Definitely. So the intelligent enterprise is really a strategy around where we see how businesses are going to be operating in the future. And when we tell the story, we always position it in the style of, if the customer itself was a entire, SAP to SAP experience in that sense. So the intelligent enterprise encompasses the intelligent suite, and this is our software as a service. So these are our cloud-based solutions that we provide for specific lines of business. So whether that's customer experience, whether that's HR, we have flagship solutions that we deliver for those scenarios. We've also got industry cloud. This is our almost a network, if you will, of partner-based solutions and SAP built solutions that are really accommodated to specific, particularly unique use cases where we've worked with a customer and partner in the past, and we've actually seen so much value from our partner network, which is again another major strength of SAP and our partner ecosystem. We've seen such a power in the solutions that they can build as well using our technologies that we've then actually packaged it into a specific solution, and then we can obviously then deliver that to new customers as well. But then what underpins all of that is the business technology platform. So the platform as a service, almost as the, if you've ever seen a diagram of it, it's almost like a bit of a burger bun in a way, and the BTP is that bottom layer, which then is really about going beyond, what we've talked about already is delivering those integrations, delivering the ability to extend the organization. Even if you've got, analytics scenarios and how you want to actually manage and understand your data, we've got solutions for those areas as well. So absolutely, the business technology platform is crucial for the intelligent enterprise strategy, and it's crucial for pretty much every customer interaction that SAP is pushing going from 2022 and onwards.
Thank you. And so we've talked about kind of a little bit about the journey to S4 and how business technology platform can support that. We've touched on the intelligent enterprise, and while we're going through those the SAP world, it'd probably be remiss not to mention RISE as well at the moment. And so customers looking at that perspective to maybe utilize RISE on their journey to S4 HANA. Could they also benefit from BTP?
Absolutely. So one beauty of RISE, and for those listening that may not necessarily have too much knowledge in what RISE is, it's almost a toolkit, if you will, for giving our customers the best possible chance of success when it comes to making that transition and making that move to S4 HANA. Now, where BTP sits within there is actually more from a mindset and a license perspective. So with RISE, what you get is something called a Cloud Platform Enterprise Agreement, or a CPEA for short. We love an acronym at SAP. And what this effectively is a consumption-based model to accessing services on the business technology platform. Before, what would happen is a customer would subscribe to specific services that they want to use. but then they might actually end up, only using, a 10% of what they've actually subscribed to, and it might actually end up being, only for small use cases in the end. And so as a result, they end up paying, quite a lot of money for only really using a small portion of what they want to end up using it for. And naturally that's not good for a customer. We never want that to be the intention. And so what we actually have now done with CPEA, or Cloud Platform Enterprise Agreement, is it's all now based on credits. So effectively, you use credits and pay for what you consume. In that instance, obviously a consumption-based model. And this, at least from my side and in my view, has been such a powerful tool for our customers, because firstly, you're paying for what you get. That is of utmost importance. But secondly, it's actually now giving our customers the flexibility to explore different services as well within the BTP. So as part of a CPEA license, we've now also released something called a free tier service. And what this effectively is many customers obviously want to try a specific service, or maybe they've heard about a specific service and they want to go and see, well, actually, could this work in a specific use case? But in the past, they might have had to explore this on a trial license, which sometimes doesn't necessarily have the functionality that they need. And so what they need is a productive environment to be actually able to test it correctly and efficiently. And so what the free tier service allows our users to do is try a specific service for a set time limit. So I think it's somewhere around 2 to 3 months. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but without consuming any of those credits. So we're actually given a free period on a productive development instance to go and explore a service that they are curious about, to then understand, okay, yes, this works with my scenario, or no, actually, it doesn't work with my scenario. It's all about giving the customer that flexibility, making sure they can explore those options in their own time as well, right? They don't want to have to keep coming back to SAP and asking us, how do I do this? How do I do that? I want to explore this service. Give them that flexibility to explore these scenarios. And so then, looping back to Rise with SAP, going on that journey, all those features are available to the customer when they go on that Rise with SAP journey, which is exciting, at least for us at SAP, particularly when Rise came out. It was very big. We were excited for it, and of the customers that are on their Rise journeys right now, it's proven to be very successful in that regard, which is always exciting for us.
Thank you. And I know when the consumption-based pricing model came out for the business technology platform, it was warmly welcomed. It's certainly a drum our user community has been beating for a while now, because like you say, a customer wants to pay for what they use, not for what's sat on the shelf and not being used, perhaps.
Exactly.
So it's certainly welcome. And you've talked around a lot of things around where the business technology platform can help. And are there any specific or certain scenarios where perhaps utilizing the business technology platform isn't the best approach?
Ooh, good question. I mean, naturally, there's always going to be specific scenarios or specific customer paths where they might not think the business technology platform is the best approach, and to which we always say, fair enough. If they don't want to use it, we obviously won't push for it. But what we will always try to do is certainly make it a option for them. And that's why I like the business technology platform, because sometimes if you're focused or you're specialized in a specific solution, you're almost tailored to that. Let's say HR, you're almost tailored to that specific use case, that specific line of business. But because BTP is designed to operate across all lines of business, all industries, there's always a specific area or a specific use case where the BTP can work and will work. But it's then naturally up to the customer to decide whether that's the route that they want to take. If they've got, it can even be obviously our competitors as well. If they've got our competitors in their landscape as well, and they're happy with that, then so be it. What we will do is we will make sure that the BTP, as effectively as possible, can work with that competitor to make sure that we can obviously deliver the value where necessary for our customers as well. And that kind of touches base on the idea of, this idea of being interoperable with different solutions. So, from an integration perspective, making sure we've got those APIs to third parties. So then they can start, from a customer perspective, they can start having the best of breed of all variety of solutions for all variety of scenarios. But again, it would naturally just depend on the customer's scenario, I guess, in that case, in that sense.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And we talked earlier as well about bringing more awareness, if you like, of the business technology platform to customers. And what is SAP doing around that? 'Cause I know we are working closely with SAP. We're looking to bring a webinar series to our members in the coming months to really delve into a lot of the areas that we've touched on today, because with over 100 microservices, there's a hell of a lot in there. We're not going to get it in a 30-minute podcast. So we're working in that regard with different people within SAP to bring a lot more knowledge to the community on that. And what's SAP doing? And also, as a follow-on question to that is, what role can the partners play?
Well, you're exactly right. And that's part of the challenge, but it's part of the fun as well. Is there's a lot of services, and so there's a lot of content we need to make sure we're delivering to our users. So, I mean, aside from the regular events like Sapphire and TechEd, for the listeners out there, if you haven't attended or you don't attend, I strongly encourage to get involved in them. They are a type of flagship, almost events for evangelizing and displaying, the new and exciting technologies that not just specific to BTP, the wide variety, the broad capabilities of SAP, where we're going, what our strategy is, how our partners are helping us. So I strongly encourage to get involved in them if not already. In the UK alone, and I'll obviously use my team in particular, as we are the BTP experts, if you will. So we run regular, we call them technical academies, and what these are types of almost hands-on classroom style learning. So we might get customers or even partners as well come on to a sort of half day or maybe even full day in certain examples, and we will actually design almost a step-by-step guide with a specific use case or a scenario in mind, and we'll then give. Sometimes it'll be a trial instance. Sometimes we've got academy instances as well. And what we then allow our users to go and do is work through this scenario whilst having us as the experts sat on the call with them to help them guide them through it. We give updates of what's happening with the solution, best practices, as well as giving them that ability to ask whatever questions they might want as well. I very much like running technical academies. We've done quite a few in the past. I know that my analytics colleagues, they run a lot as well. It's always very, very nice to explore those. Obviously webinars as well, for discussing the latest and greatest on BTP are always about as well. We have a SAP events page where you can go and sign up to specific events happening within SAP on BTP and other solution areas too. In particular as well, we've also got the Open SAP website, public website for training programs. So some of the solution areas that I was talking about earlier around the robotic process automation, extensibility, integration capabilities. We've got a wide set of Open SAP courses on them as well, to help bring you up to speed. Obviously our lovely user group of our SAP community, to help obviously almost incubate and help each other learn and develop as well, which is really lovely. And then we've also got a public website called the SAP Discovery Center. This is almost a one-stop shop for going and understanding in detail each individual service within the business technology platform. So you can see roadmap, you can see pricing, you can see technical information, you can see missions. So if you want to actually do some hands-on training as well, all in one single public website, you can go and explore that. It's really, really good. And then where our partners play a role, it's actually extremely important for us to make sure that where possible, we can always try to include a partner into a sales cycle. Our partner ecosystem is quite literally excellent. They are some of the most lovely people that I've interacted with, especially. And yeah, it's just crucial to get them involved, particularly when we're doing events as well. We always try to make sure that our partners can come and display, stuff that they have built, applications, extensibility, all the different bits and pieces that they've created for us in the past. We really try to make sure that we can push out what they've delivered and built to customers at these events as well. Naturally, there are partners that specialize in specific areas, so it's quite nice in that sense of being able to get all these different varieties, all these different areas come together and display that content. But I talked also about this idea of this industry cloud in the intelligent enterprise, and that's really where those solutions are built and delivered. So yeah, definitely partners play a very important role. They play an important role in the actual sales cycle themselves, but they also play a major role in our big events as well. And we're always getting them involved. Hopefully, in the not too distant future, if these events can become face to face again, then absolutely, if people haven't been involved before, get involved, and you'll probably end up seeing some partner content out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, thank you. And just lots of different areas then where customers can go to find out more information. I'm really just to pick on one item there, and I'm really pleased you brought up the Discovery Centre, because I was going to ask about that, because it is, to me, when I came across it, it's a very valuable website, I feel, for customers to really understand more. And allow them to, I think is it to turn data into business value and what's available and how they can do that. So I'm glad you brought that up. So for all our listeners, keep an eye open on what's coming from both the user group and SAP, and really understand more about what we maybe termed earlier as the one of the best kept secrets. And just as we come to the close now, Ed, just a quick question, I suppose, on the future and the future of the business technology platform. Is there any further insights into the product roadmap that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's a real variety. So I'll give an example in my area in particular. So on the application development and integration piece in particular, um, what's been happening right now is we're doing a lot of focus on this idea of low code, no code, and citizen developers. So low code, no code in the sense of reducing the overall need to write your own code. So once you go into a system, if you want to edit, modify, and stuff like that, rather than having to, write big long lines of custom code, let's just take that away and build it out into. Sometimes it can just be how the actual user interface is laid out, but given the flexibility and the options within the solution itself, so you don't have to write that stuff yourself. And then that touches base with this idea of citizen developers, in the sense that a citizen developer is, I consider myself one as an example, is someone who doesn't believe or doesn't consider themselves to be a full-fledged, um, you know, full stack developer. I understand code. I understand how it works, where it works, what it can be used for. I can, sometimes modify and edit little snippets myself. But I'd never be able to, write a full end-to-end set of code for a specific function. So what we've done is we've made it so solutions that we're building out, and especially the process automation one that I talked about earlier, is going down this mindset of being a citizen developer. So the example that we did was we built out a approval process for that sales order, where if it was above a specific value, it might need to go to someone for approval, and if it was below a certain value, it could get automatically approved. And that entire scenario, we didn't write a single line of code. It was very much this drag and drop experience, connecting the endpoints together, hooking up a type of model to say that we had a Excel file and we needed to make it so that specific columns, or the master data, if you will, within that Excel file was then connected to specific information in the back end. At no point were we writing any specific code. And in that mindset, it's such a great user experience, and I'm so happy that we're going down that route, because I personally, I'm quite passionate about user experience in general, and then it really touches base on that mindset as well. The low code, no code, the citizen developer really touches base with user experience and user interfaces in general.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, where the mindset is at the moment for us is that in particular the low code, no code. But that's just just one area of the BTP. I could almost say that's a couple of services out of the nearly 100 of them. If there's specific examples that our listeners are interested in, I strongly encourage. We've got a public roadmap website. Feel free to check that out. And the Discovery Center as well has the roadmap for each individual service as well. So highly encouraged to check those out as well, if they want to explore in their own time.
Great. And I think if I remember rightly, roadmaps.sap.com?
Yes,
Does that sound right?
I think it's something similar. Yes, roadmap. Yes, exactly right.
Okay, perfect. That's great. So pop along then and see what the future holds for BTP. Well, Ed, thank you. Thank you very much for your time and your insights and sharing your vast knowledge. And good luck with helping customers on their journey and really delivering that business value that you want to do and thrive on. And we hope you've enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Now, be sure to subscribe, and I'm sure we'll be covering the SAP's Business Technology Platform more in the future, and keep your eye out on the events and things that both I and Ed alluded to. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.